Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hello, you're listening to the podcast. So there I was. This is episode number 145. I'll ram the cockpit. You take the tail.
I'd rather not. Do I have to?
Holy shit.
Right?
When she said that, I could have heard a pin drop in the house I'm standing in, and it was full of people.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The hair on the back of my neck isn't going to lay down for a week.
Our guest, Lucky, she was an F-16 pilot on September 11th, 2001 in the DCA Guard. Yep. And they launched because there was an inbound aircraft heading back into DC, which was, by the way, United Airlines Flight 93. They didn't know what was going on, and they launched with basically no air-to-air weapons.
Right. They were going to take that airliner out of the sky by any means possible.
That was the brief, basically, when they were zipping up their flight suits. And that's all I'm going to say, because the way she tells it, it's really memorable and historic, and I'm glad we got it on record.
Right. It is the quintessential great aviation tale, and we were blessed and honored to have her join us. The sponsor this week is HelloFresh. They were kind enough to help put this show on the air, so you do get to hear this historic tale. So thank you to HelloFresh.
Yeah,
it's very kind of you to come back. Yeah. We have a new Patreon pilot with us now, Furious Luddite. Probably not his real name. I could be wrong.
If it is, it's the best name ever.
Right? I mean, no call sign necessary. So thank you very much for letting your judgment slip and cracking your wallet and sending money our way to help make this happen.
We are truly humbled and honored, and we're questioning your judgment at all times, but we do appreciate your support, because this is not free. We can't put this out for free, and this makes all the difference in the world to us. So thank you.
It does indeed. And for those of you on Patreon, you get the extra, and we had a fantastic extra this week that came way out of left field. All I can tell you is it has something to do with pressure feed and gravity feed systems.
I did not see that coming.
No, nor did I. But,
Speaking of did not see it. Hey, speaking of did not see it coming, I did not. I mean, I had a general idea of how this interview was going to go, because I knew her story slightly. Yeah. But holy shit, was I caught way off guard.
Yeah, Lucky has got it together. An amazing public speaker, an amazing thinker, clearly an amazing pilot. 20-year career, retired DC Air Guard. Honored to be in her presence. That's all I can say. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff.
So. Why don't we get out of the way and let her tell her story?
Let's do it. And before we do, she has Aerospace Advantage podcast. That's her podcast.
So. And you should probably listen to it, because after you listen to this, you'll understand what we're saying. She is truly a force to be reckoned with, so to speak.
Absolutely. So let's get out of the way. Don't sit on the ejection seat, handle story.
Don't.
About crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. There I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fun.
So there I was, right? First lieutenant. I am young pup, just got to my fighter squadron maybe 9 months prior. You know, I'm feeling large because I got my combat mission qualification status taken care of. You know, I became CMR in March of 2001, and it's September. And so I'm feeling good about myself, except for that morning, because I'm sitting in a scheduling meeting talking about short range and long range scheduling, just like everybody loves to do in a squadron, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, the schedule was pretty skosh that morning because we had just gotten back from Red Flag. The boss had given everyone Monday off. I'm still on seasoning days because I'm in the guard. And so all of our part-timers, man, they skedaddled. They are off to their airline jobs, to their real jobs. I mean, like there is nobody in the squadron. So we're putting up a three ship to go down to the Dare to go do basic surface attack, BSA.
Nice.
Yeah, a 3 ship. I should be number 4. I should be number 4. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the scheduling meeting. And those jets, so it was Bully Flight, right? So Bully 1 is Lou Shooter Campbell. Bully 2 is Eric Puck Hagenson. So Puck was the other lieutenant in the squadron. And Bully 3 is Billy Hutchison. I should be Bully 4.
Right.
Engines are winding up and they start taxiing. And I'll tell you, it was one of the most spectacular flying days I had seen in a while. I mean, it's one of those crisp fall days on the mid-Atlantic where it's just all the humidity goes away. It's kind of crisp, but you can tell that there's going to be a warmth in the air, that the leaves are starting to turn. You could see for miles and just barely a puff of wind coming out of the southwest. Perfect flying day. I'm sitting there in the scheduling meeting and as we're going through check rides and who's available and who's not and what sorties we're going to do and how we're going to reset the training plan. And that's when David Chunks Callahan, Chunks was just a phenomenal flight service. He's one of our enlisted troops. He was a fizzer, running the ops desk and taking care of all that stuff. And, he had gotten his call sign from an unfortunate outcome from an orientation flight, as you can imagine. But I mean, he had his shit together. Just a super good dude. Retired as a chief, but Chunks knocks on the door and walks in. And I mean, Fighter Squadron. Like if the door is closed, you don't knock, you don't open.
Right.
So we all look at him and he goes,
like he has 2 heads, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What the F, man?
Exactly. And he goes, an airplane just hit the World Trade Center. That's my There I Was story.
Yeah.
That's how all terrifying aviation tales begin. Greetings, everybody. Repeat here, coming to you from New Hampshire tonight. Where's my co-host?
I am back in God's country, Kearney, Missouri, after a 2-week round-the-world trip to Costa Rica.
Nice. Nicely done.
And now I got to go to work tomorrow, so it all the record went. And
There's
wow.
that.
So it is our distinct pleasure to welcome Lucky. Thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. It's great to be here.
I know I got a little inside baseball. I know how this goes. And my arms, the hair on my arms and the back of my neck were standing up when you set it up.
Never a more apropos call sign, although ultimately a play on your name, I think.
Better lucky than good.
Right. But when your luck runs out, you better be good. So, yeah. Hey, I want to take just a quick minute. I'm sorry, right up front here. Well, first of all, happy Groundhog Day to everybody, because that's the day that we are recording. And I want to say, and then bring us down again, because we just had a national tragedy last week, obviously, at the Reagan Airport. And then a few days later, I happened to also be a Shriner, and we lost a Shrine patient in the Philadelphia crash.
Tragic.
So, just horrible. So hearts and prayers go out to all the families of the victims who are so deeply affected, who've been rocked to their foundations.
Well, and all the communities too, right? All the communities as well. From the air traffic controllers to everyone at American Airlines to all the passengers and all their loved ones and that are involved there. When you think about the Lear 55, the medevac community, everyone who donates and is part of Angel Flights. I mean, and the corporate aviation world, there are a lot of people who lost a lot of good folks that day.
The ripples, the ripples go around the world. They literally do. And so we just wanted to acknowledge that here on the show and say that we are crushed, as so many are. So, on that bright note,
way to go! Thanks for
bringing us down right.
Way up. All right, let's go back up.
Well, but sortie still got to go, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
You still got to fly the mission.
Strap in, put it on.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
So speaking of strapping in and getting it started, how did it start for you, Lucky?
So I suppose I came by it honestly. I'm actually a third generation pilot.
Nice.
My grandfather was a pilot. He was a contract flight instructor in World War II and owned and managed a small airport outside of Sacramento. My dad was a fighter pilot, and that's really where I got the hunger to go fly. Because my dad's my hero, always has been, and always will be. And
very cool.
I just loved going down to the fighter squadron, going to the O Club, going to the flight line, seeing those jets, seeing what he was flying, hearing the stories the guys told. I loved the bros. I loved the camaraderie. And they told these adventure stories. And it was always, it was just, it seemed hard. It seemed thrilling. It seemed
Right.
like what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
It seemed like something you could make a podcast out of. I'm just saying.
Well, there are a couple bumps in the roads, right?
Yeah.
Because
There's always
so I think my dad was always supportive, but never super. I don't think he took me seriously because girls couldn't be fighter pilots.
Right.
Well, in his day, yeah, right.
Yeah, no, exactly. And my mom, God bless her. She was the best mom in the world. She's, as long as we did our homework, ate our vegetables, and tried hard, we could be anything we wanted to be. So,
Good mom. Yeah, good mom.
yeah,
That's
great
right.
mom. Except that when I wanted to go sign up for ROTC, they still had not changed the law. So girls still could not be fighter pilots. Yep.
So, and when and where was that?
So I went to Purdue University, and we were talking a little bit before the show. I am not an engineer.
In the aviation program?
No, not the aviation program. So I thought I wanted to be an engineer, and I realized that me and computers don't really get along that well. Yeah. Computer programming, totally foreign language. That was one of the basics that all the engineers had to take. And so I had to look at what my plan B was going to be. And I was like, oh, they got an aviation program here. And my dad said, not over my dead checkbook.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I was like, well, what did I like in high school? I was like, good at that. I guess I'll go be an English major, history major. Yeah, that sounds good. So I went over to the College of Liberal Arts, and I was an English and history major, and I actually stayed in for graduate school because I graduated when I was 20. I couldn't drink. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I didn't really, teaching didn't set me on fire, and so I was just trying to hit pause on the real life button. And I was fortunate that I had some really phenomenal mentors and professors at Purdue said, go take your GRE. And so I got into graduate school there at Purdue, got a job there. And that was when I was in the middle of grad school and I found out that Congress had opened up combat aviation to women. There was a couple year lag there because I'm in the liberal arts, right? I'm no longer really tracking what's going on with national security really closely and all this legislative change. And so when it comes across, I go, it's about 1995, and I start spamming out my applications to every single guard unit in the United States.
Okay. Nice.
Because I want to go fly. And if you remember at the time, I wasn't really aware of this, but I heard, some of my dad's buddies are like, yeah, you really don't want to go to the active duties.
That's a good call.
Well, the reason why is because the nation was chopping the Air Force in half in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And,
yeah.
Yeah. So they were riffing pilots. They were banking student pilots. You had to wait a couple of years before you went to pilot training. After you got out of pilot training, there was this big backlog. And so I didn't realize that was what was going on at the time. I just thought, well, I want to stack the cards in my favor. And so I went to the Guard. And I was fortunate enough to get hired by the DC Guard.
That was very fortuitous.
Lucky, right?
You
It was
might
lucky.
say lucky.
Yes.
Oh, too funny.
Hey, before we go much further, we throw acronyms around like it's
Because we can.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a language. And we get it.
They're words. They're actually words.
And so we have a lot of listeners that are not aviation people, and so acronym. So can you just define RIF? for?
Oh yeah, reduction in force.
Okay, thank you.
So in the 90s, people don't realize that Air Force end strength or manpower or people. So the people in the Air Force, especially the air crews, but also the maintainers and everything is sized off of how many airplanes you have. So for example, a squadron is today, right now, they are 1.25 pilots per airplane. So if you have 10 airplanes, you'd have 12 and a half pilots. So when you get rid of airplanes, you get rid of pilots and you get rid of the maintainers and all of the other people that make the enterprise run. So in the mid 90s, where it's a superpower, a unipower, it's the end of history. We never have to worry about, bad guys again.
Right.
The nation is literally cut the Air Force in half.
And you don't want to be that half pilot. I'm just saying.
The half a pilot is a bad place to be. Then you got to decide. Is
for
it,
sure.
Is it split this way?
Yeah.
Is it that way? It's not good.
Yeah. So that was the reduction in force. And I'll be honest, the Air Force is still experiencing the repercussions and the consequences of those actions in the 1990s.
You bet. One more thing. Mm-hmm. It was in your So There I Was story. Seasoning days. I know what that means because I spent a little time in the Guard after the Marine Corps. But can you tell our listeners what seasoning days means? So
as a Guard baby, which meant that I was hired by the Air National Guard, commissioned by the Air National Guard, and I went straight into the Air National Guard.
I'm so jealous.
The Air National Guard, we are the citizen soldiers. Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you, it is not 1 week a month and 2 weeks a year. It's a lot.
But that's what they say on TV.
Yeah, they do.
That's just to get you in the door, right? Just to get you in the door. But as a new guy coming right back from pilot training and going through my F-16 school and all of that, I arrive at my fighter squadron. I might feel like I'm 10 feet tall, and in reality, I'm nowhere near that. But I still can barely find my way tactically around, right? Because I'm brand new. I'm a wingman. I don't know anything. And so the Air National Guard gives seasoning days to give you full-time orders and keep your day-to-day 9 to 5 job, which is actually way more than 9 to 5. As you know, it's 4:30 to 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. for about a year and a half to experience these young pilots. So when you're a Guard baby, you get, you've gone through all of your pilot training, you get to your first operational squadron. You actually are not a part-timer, 2 weekends, 1 week a month, 2 weeks a year. You are a full-timer there every day. That is your everyday job to get you that experience, get you the hours, and get you those initial qualifications so that when you do go part-time, you have some wisdom, some reps and sets that you can kind of fall back on. It's more like riding a bicycle as opposed to, being someone who's a green FNG.
Right.
Thank you to say that, or is the audience?
No, that's another acronym. So let's go.
FNG, friendly
repeat. You want to
new
define
guy.
FNG I think we have that already in our.
In the glossary. Yeah.
In the glossary.
So.
Hey, just to bring some of our listeners up to speed, the Guard.
No, Dizzy, I'm just slightly.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So Dizzy put up the comment: is a half pilot 3 feet tall? So yeah.
Yeah. So the Guard and the Reserve has the exact same flying requirements to maintain currency as the active duty does.
There's slightly less, to be honest. If you take a look at the regulation, the instruction, and this is totally creepy, so we can stop this if you want. But let it rip. Yeah, if in the active component, so we normally colloquially say active duty. Like for example, an F-16 pilot who is inexperienced would be required to fly 9 times a month, and an experienced pilot who has over 250 sorties and so on simulators and so forth would be required to fly 7 times a month. And in the Guard or the Reserve, that's like they bring that down because they assume that you have they have more experience, and B, you might have more time to spin up. So it's like 1 or 2 sorties less in the Guard and Reserve than it is for the active component.
Hence seasoning days.
Yes, exactly. Because
I would sum it up like this. It's probably always good to be sitting in the cockpit first thing in the morning and not trying to figure out how to start the damn thing. Right?
Amen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. True statement. Very, very well put. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Well, let's back up and say, where'd you go to flight school? And how much jealousy was there when you showed up and said, yeah, I'm gonna go fly Vipers. And people are going, wait, what?
Yeah. In the guard. In the guard.
Well, so the good news is that, so I of course I get hired by the DC Guard. I'm a dumb bunny. I'm a baby seal. I'm ready to get plugged. And one of the old guys says, "Hey, Lieutenant, go tell the training shop you want to go to NJEPT." I'm like, "NJEPT? What's that?" "Just don't worry. Just tell them you want to go to Shepherd." Okay. So I write this down, I memorize it, and I go down to the training shop and like, I'd like to go to NJEPT for pilot training because the guard has to bid and get their positions, their slots and stuff like that. And I have no idea what NJEPT is. Again, another acronym, Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training. ENJPPT. NJEPT. Yeah. Even I got to think through that acronym. So it's in the loveliest of Wichita Falls.
I did a hurricane evacuation there once. It was the longest summer of my white life, those 4 days.
Yeah, if you trip over the Red River, you'll end up in Oklahoma.
And there was a reason that they said you wanted to go there, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I'll tell you what the secret was. Everyone who goes to NJEPT is going to be a combat, like, once upon a time, they were guaranteed fighters. Okay. That is no longer the case. But at the time, they're like, if you go to NJEPT, you're getting a fighter coming out of this. Okay. And so I actually had to go through additional battery of tests to qualify to go to NJEPT because they wanted to know that they were betting good. And it was an all or nothing thing. Like if you didn't pass, if you flunked out of NJEPT, you got sent off to, like, I don't know, live in a hole as a missileer or something like that. It wasn't like you got to gracefully fall down in your standings and maybe go fly, cargo or something. Right. So it was kind of an all or nothing deal. But so everyone who went to NJEPT, everyone in my class, they were going to go fly fighters. And we had a bunch of the Euro-NATO partners there. We had a Spaniard in our class. We had some Canadians. We had Germans. We had Dutch. We had a lot of Dutch and a lot of Norwegians, because that was the year that they were sending them. And it said we already had Germans. So, and they knew, like, they were going to go, like the Dutch, they were all going to go fly F-16s. The Germans, they were mostly during tornadoes out of that. And also all of our instructor pilots were a mix of NATO fighter pilots as well. So all of our instructor pilots were fighter pilots. So the good news was going to NJEPT, I knew as long as I passed, as long as I qualified, as long as I performed, there wasn't going to be any extra love for me. But as long as I performed, I was going to go fly F-16s to the DC Guard. And, nice. But there wasn't any kind of animosity or resentment like I might have experienced at other bases, because I knew what my jet was going to be coming out of it. Because those other bases, as you know, Fig, and repeat, like Columbus and Laughlin, it is highly competitive, and where you rack and stack really
determines the community you go.
Determines what you're. Determines the community you go in, and also they might not have any fighters for that class, so you could be number one. But if there's no fighters, you're still out of luck.
Oh yeah, the needs of the Corps, as we used to say. It's always.
Yep.
In this case, the needs of the Air Force.
There you go. Exactly.
Yes.
I heard that, Fig. What? Not lost on me, man.
No, okay. But I will say, I spent, half of my military career was in the Guard, believe it or not.
Really?
The Air Guard. Yeah, the last portion. And the active duty Air Force was kind of like, I was a C-130 guy in the end, believe it or not.
Oh, sweet. Where'd you fly out of?
St. Joe, Missouri.
So I have a theory that the C-130, were you flying H models? E models?
Yep, H.
Okay, yeah. That the C-130 would have been one of the most fun cargo airplanes to fly.
Well, I can tell you this. After coming straight out of the Harrier A4 into that, I thought I had a controllability problem the first time I flew. But it grew on me. It grew on me over time, and 5 combat deployments in that thing, and it was fun, very fun. Went places I would never have volunteered to go or ever thought I would ever go.
And I'm guessing don't want to go back.
3,000 foot
Yeah.
dirt gravel strips in the middle of places you never want to be again. However, it's a character builder, right?
Yeah.
But I can say that, hey, we're the Guard. Active duty Air Force, you can F right off. That's kind of the attitude we had a lot of times, especially when we were dealing with our active duty counterparts, when they would start throwing around active duty things. I don't know what it was like in your unit there in DC, but I'm assuming it's kind of a Guard-wide thing.
Well, we were actually a little bit more toeing the line and being more active duty like, because there's so much more integration in the fighter community because we're so small, and so there's a lot more interchangeability there that we really had to get, and so that bled over into also sort of the culture and the deployment experience and all of that. But man, you were kind of like that's like backcountry flying on steroids.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, and people shooting at you. So like,
I couldn't
really
shoot back.
like
First time in my life, I
super
couldn't
redneck.
shoot back. Yeah, it was really, it was something else.
Well, I would think the other thing,
I had it.
why it was tighter for your unit there, Lucky, is you're closer to the head shed. Everybody's right there to look at you when you, it's not good.
That is true.
Yeah.
Living there on Andrews. Mm-hmm.
Oh, buddy.
Go ahead, Fig.
So, I don't know. I forgot. I lost my
That's
train of
what I
thought.
do.
didn't
I
write it
help
down,
mess this stuff up.
which means it's gone. Gone.
Well, let's
Just
continue
like
with flight school. So, what was flight school like, and was there any particularly scary or funny experience that you had there? And so you were one of the leading edge females going through. Did you catch any jazz for that, and how'd you deal with it?
No, I'll tell you what, the IPs were fantastic. I mean, they did their best to just treat me like everyone else. But being the only girl there, I still felt like there was a spotlight on me. The Turkish IPs, we didn't have any in my flight, so it really didn't impact me. But you get guest flyers and stuff like that. But the Turks would not fly with me because I was a girl. I was kind of okay with that.
Yeah, that way you didn't have to not fly with them because they were Turks.
Let's just say that maybe they could have washed their flight suits a little bit more often.
Nice.
Yeah. But it was a very pungent fragrance inside the 38 and
Absolutely.
37. But no, I loved it. All of my compatriots, my peers in my flight were fantastic. I met one of my dearest friends, Christine Callahan, Grinder, one of the first F-35, actually the first F-35 chick, Grinder Mao. Met her there. She was a couple classes ahead of me, which looking back, it's kind of like being a little kid, It doesn't seem like when you look back, you're like, oh, they're all just a bunch of little kids. But when you are a little kid, someone who's 6 months older than you seems like they are adults. They should be drinking and smoking and driving and all of that. So Grinder was a couple classes ahead of me, and she was fantastic. She's like, hey, how you doing? And checking in on me and giving me the gouge. And it was just the start of a wonderful friendship. She was a great mentor at the time, has become a wonderful friend, and I love her dearly. But I'll tell you a funny story is graduate, out of T-37s, because I flew the T-38s, which was fantastic. I'm doing IFF. I graduate IFF, and I'm casual. So I get to go fly once a week up front and with an IP in the back seat doing BFM or whatever else is going on. And, BFM, air quotes, and a T-38. But I had really dorked up a vertical maneuver and found myself pointed straight up with zero airspeed.
And a T-38, I think that's bad.
Yeah. And we both went.
The airspeed indicator must be broken.
And we didn't touch anything. And we made sure we stayed unloaded. And no shit, the airplane kind of did a little tail slide and then flopped over, and we were then headed straight down.
Perfect.
And we let it gain the airspeed. And of course, it was a T-38. So we've got big floors at like 15,000 feet, and so we had enough altitude to be able to gain that downward airspeed. But I'll tell you, I'm shocked that those motors didn't even cough.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
It must have been because by then, like as soon as we realized we're running out of airspeed, I didn't know anything because I'm a dumb lieutenant, right? But my IP sitting in the back pulls the motors to idle, so we're not trying to gulp air, and we're not trying to force air out the back. So probably since he pulled it to idle, that's what saved us from having a compressor stalls. But airplane flops over, proves to everyone that zero angle of attack equals zero stall spin problems. And we get enough airspeed heading downhill thanks to Mother Gravity. And at that point in time, we knocked it off and said, we're bingo. Time to go home.
That didn't happen. No.
Yes.
There's the T-37.
Yep. I think that's from Laughlin, though, right? XL?
I have no idea.
You're asking the wrong person.
But
however,
Laughlin, that looked like the lake right there. Or whatever that lake is.
I was just looking at the XL.
I think you're right.
Tail fin. Yeah.
Look at that barren territory below. It's got to be Laughlin.
It was still pretty barren up at Shepherd, but we did have a couple lakes like Lake.
And then there's this.
But, oh my gosh!
Who is that?
Yeah, there you go. So this is about half hour in or so. We'll go back and watch on the YouTube. Got a picture of young Lucky in flight school by her trusty T-37. That's all out on the interwebs there. You haven't sent me anything yet, so.
I know.
Lucky you.
That's all right.
Bago. Nice job, Bago. Or that could have been Sticks. I don't know.
Actually, that one was me, but I found a bunch of the photos earlier today to get them up there. So, all right. So, crawl back to base, sneaking away like the bishop or like Bill Murray after the bishop gets hit by lightning. Nobody saw anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
No harm, no foul, right?
Hey, Lucky, can you define IFF real quick?
Introduction of Fighter Fundamentals.
Thank you.
So that is a transition course between the T-38, which is the advanced jet training so the Air Force pilot training is in two phases. Your basic pilot training in my day was the T-37, the Mighty Tweet, 6,000-pound dog whistle. Nowadays, that's the T-62 Texan that does that basic pilot training. And then if you're being tracked into fighters, you go on to the T-38, which is still
hard to
flying,
believe? That must be 50 years now that airplane's been flying.
Oh,
60?
Try 60. 60
Oh,
plus.
wow.
Yeah.
That's almost as old as you, Reedy.
Ow.
Ow! Oh!
Let me get that knife out of my back.
Actually,
Fox 2 kill.
Yeah. Hold on.
That was a full-on face shot.
Incriminate. I turned 60 in June of this year. Yeah. So I'm old as fuck.
Yep. We're full on. We have achieved geezer status.
70 is the new 50. 60 is the new 40.
Right on. I'm with you.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't identify as a 60-year-old. Let's just get that straight.
You just identify for
there
however
you go.
old you want.
17 works for me.
Yeah.
26.
Love it. So then the after T-38s, there's the introduction of fighter. That's the new undergraduate pilot training, primary trainer. And then after the T-38, you graduate, you get your wings. Back in the day, folks are getting their wings now after the T-6. And then there's another class to be like, okay, well, you could fly a fast jet, but can you fight it? So they teach you some basic tactics just to filter again. If you can't learn how to fly the basic tactics in a jet that you already know, there's a lower likelihood. Like, let's just be honest. There's no way you're going to be able to go to a tactical fighter, F-15, F-16, F-22, F-35, and be able to manage the airplane, the tactics, the maneuvering, the avionics, all of that. So it's just an additional filter to make sure that folks are going to be good to go.
Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Make sure we had that. We might have had that covered before in the glossary, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
So you finished flight school. Where do you train in Vipers?
So I was part of the first class at Kelly Air National Guard Base. down at
wow, San Antonio.
The Riverwalk,
San Antonio.
Paseo del Rio
Yeah.
and all.
So I was a gunfighter. Yeah,
Nice.
I was a gunfighter. And so it was just a really small class. It was fantastic because we had just all the IPs there were super experienced, super knowledgeable. I think we had like 6 fighter weapons school grads that were now teaching there. It was fantastic. It just and very low key. Loved it. I mean, I just
Nice. Well, that sounds like a really nice place to go through.
Well, and I mean, it was a small class. We had 9 in our class. We were the only class that was there. So everything like revolved around us. We're the first class. So we got lots of special attention, and anything we needed, we got, whether it was extra sim time or, but we still, got hazed a little bit, not too much, but it just is as much as every new lieutenant should be.
Will they send you down to look for flight line or pick up some BA 1100Ns or?
Exactly.
Ask how many generators how many watts the vortex generator put out.
It's something like that. Exactly.
Oh man. Gotta have fun with that stuff. So what's that program like? And well, I guess the T-38 was supersonic, so it wasn't your first time supersonic once you got to the Viper.
Supersonic downhill. I mean, let's be honest. It really is the 38 is still a transonic aircraft, but yeah, no, going supersonic. Any Viper driver will tell you is a non-event. You really know you're going super because the Mach meter.
Yeah.
That's it. The way the aircraft flies is just so gorgeous, so smooth, so intuitive and perfect. There's just there's none of the buffeting or anything like that you get with the F-16.
Sounds like she described what it's like going supersonic in a Harrier. Almost
exactly. And then you get back and you get your ass chewed by the skipper because you broke some windows. But anyway, no. So, but getting supersonic in the Viper is obviously a much shorter experience than in most other airplanes. So, but the responsiveness you described.
The GE engine, the F-110, loved it. Yeah, great.
So which model were you flying when you first got in?
So you'll laugh because Kelly, the gunfighters, they had big mouth Block 30s. What a waste on newbies, right? What a waste. Yeah. So I went from a big mouth Block 30 to small mouth Block 30s.
You're going to have to tell people what that is in a minute. There you go. All right, there you go.
Two. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. Please
It's the engine inlets. The older Block 30s have smaller engine inlets. And one day an engineer said, we could probably get more thrust if we made the engine inlet bigger so you could suck more air to feed the engine to push more air out the back to give you more thrusties. And so that's what they did. So hence the big mouth. And the reason why we call it the mouth is because the air intake is right underneath the cockpit. So that's the difference. And I'll tell you, it is like the difference between flying a T-38 and a small mouth Block 30. That's like just the difference in thrust and and the ability to make up for tactical error. So we're going through offensive BFM. It's a high aspect setup. So we're going to be, pointing noses at each other, and you got to get the lead turn on the other guy. And I do my lead turn, but I'm a new guy. It's not great, right? I get stuck in lag. So we're starting the fight up at 18,000 feet. I'm in full afterburner, and I'm just pulling back on the stick as far as I can. Well, at 18,000 feet down to 10,000 feet, I'm still pulling 9 Gs. And finally, Elvis, who's in my backseat, he goes, "Lucky, we just got to knock it off." Because we did about 4 360s at 9 Gs because that engine just would not give up.
Oh my gosh.
It was still just going.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Look at that.
Nice comparison.
So on the left-hand side, that's the big mouth. The right-hand side is the little mouth. And you can see the big, or actually, no, it's the opposite. So you can see the difference. It's just the way that the engines are set up. So you can see how much smaller the intake is there on the left side, which is the blue aircraft.
Oh yeah,
you can see
for
that.
real. Yeah,
it's not really blue, but it looks it. Awesome.
My
Is
all my
Bago
insides
Bago and
hurt.
Sticks joined us too. In the
When
meantime,
you
so.
said I did 4 360s
sweet.
at 9G.
Oh no! I'm just sitting there thinking, Fig, what would happen to you today if you had to do 4 360s at 9Gs?
Shatter my pelvis and my head, shoulders, and torso would slide through my asshole.
mean,
That's what would happen.
And here's this young second lieutenant just cranking that out like it's no big deal and still going. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was just all fangs out, man. I was just hoping that thrust would make
Right
up for
on.
my bad
Right on.
geometry.
Well, you said stuck in
And
leg.
did
Can
it?
you describe to folks exactly what that is, as opposed to where you wanted to be?
Yeah, so
We know what lag is.
you need have your hands here. So Fig, can you use your hands
Don't
for
chew
me,
your
you
watch.
know,
Yeah,
and show me that lag
here,
pursuit
all right.
curve?
So this is where you want to be. This is
Yeah.
this.
You're
is
trying to
lag.
pull your nose on and
Yeah.
you can't get there from here.
Quite get there, right?
Yeah.
How'd I do?
And then it all comes down to energy, right? And since we were at the floor, I couldn't use any vertical maneuvering room to do a low yo-yo to try to cut across the circle and get back into that lead to be able to get into a gunnery position. But yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. No,
There
Fig's,
you go.
Fig,
I know.
Oh,
Fig's
I
about
love
to
it.
shoot his
I love
watch.
it.
Chemo,
Right, we need chemo to
chemo
show
would be.
us.
I know. So he, Ray got his line. He was like, yeah, we got a low crossover. Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
going to go there, but thank you for that.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Oh, so that Sticks his comment up there now. So he's a nurse practitioner now, and he's admitting patients and doing production work.
Awesome.
So good stuff.
Okay.
Thanks for taking care of the peeps, Sticks.
As he says,
Yeah, we
waiting in the
appreciate
low
that,
end of the
Sticks.
G pool every day for a living. So
Yeah, that's
shallow end, but yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
How long did that? What do you guys? FTU. How long were you there? In
FTU, that was 11 months for that course. But
wow.
after I had both my babies, I had to requalify. And so I requested to go back to Kelly. And,
nice.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
But after second baby, right? They're like, Lucky, are you trying to rush the squadron? Just tell us. Buy a
Right.
house, man.
too funny.
So after that, so when you went to requal, how long was that?
Oh, I went to a TX2 course. So that was about 2.5 months, I think.
So you
Both
spent,
times?
You spent over a year there. Mm-hmm. Oh, you went there twice. Twice,
yeah.
Oh, so 2.5. So that's 4. Let's call it 5. Right. Holy shit, you were there for a year and a half, all in.
And then if you count up all the time I was up in Texas, you see those bumper stickers. I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here
Right
as
on.
fast as I
All
could.
right.
That was me.
Drive Texas friendly. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So well, when and where did you meet your husband? Is he a Viper driver too?
No. So my current husband, I had the practice marriage. So
yeah, we all
yeah,
did pretty much.
Yeah. I met him trying to save the F-22.
Okay.
So he was working, doing government relations for the Air Force Association. And I was working for Lockheed Martin at the time in 2009 when Bob Gates was trying to kill the F-22.
Okay.
So we were trying to save the F-22 from premature cancellation. Right. And that's how we met. Now, clearly we failed because the congressional vote that would have kept the production line open, we missed it by like 4 votes. Yep. And I think, and at the time, Bob Gates says, China is not something we're ever going to have to worry about.
He's a smart guy.
That aged well.
Yeah, he was really smart.
Maybe not so much.
Yeah, I think we all know. I think we all wish that we had more than 185 F-22s.
I mean, they are
now.
expensive airplanes, but as Fig so eloquently put it, the first time he saw a level 3 demo of an F-22, he thought he was watching a Class A mishap in progress. So,
yeah, I did. I really thought I was going to watch a guy eject or die. I didn't think airplanes.
Yeah.
I didn't think
airplanes can't do that.
I didn't know airplanes would do that.
No, phenomenal how it can maneuver, the super cruise capability, and then just when you pour in all of the avionics as well. I mean, it's I think probably every fighter pilot's dream to go fly a Raptor. So, wish we had more of them. So that's how I met my husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you know what I think we ought to do? I think, so you're finishing flight school and finishing, we call it the RAG. It's the FTU? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep,
And
FT,
yeah,
formal training
and so
unit.
you're doing that. I'm thinking that maybe we ought to spend just a minute and thank the folks who helped bring these wonderful stories to you, and then circle back to your lead in. So there I was. We're going to say thanks to HelloFresh. So there I was, staring at my fridge like it had classified intel on dinner. Spoiler alert, it did not. Just a bottle of mustard, a sad half stick of butter, and something in the back I was frankly afraid to investigate any further. Not exactly mission ready, suddenly I felt a wave of desperation wash over me, as if the fridge were mocking my lack of culinary creativity. So with a deep breath, I decided to embrace the challenge and called on my new favorite wingman, HelloFresh, for support. They send farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients straight to your door. With easy-to-follow recipes, there's no more last-minute grocery runs, no more what can I make with 3 random ingredients games, just real delicious meals without the stress. And let me tell you, I scored big this week. Mango pork tacos. Would I have ever picked that on my own? Absolutely not. But now I'm counting down until I can get them again. Sweet, savory, a little spicy, a direct bullseye on my taste buds. Now, I know some of you are busy. Maybe even too busy to stop and refuel kind of busy. That's why HelloFresh has 15-minute meals done in just 3 simple steps. Prep and bake meals that let your oven do the work, and also ready-made meals that go from fridge to fork in just 3 minutes. Faster than a pre-flight checklist and no mission debrief required. So, don't scramble for dinner. Get ahead of the game. Get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas10FM. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas10FM. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit because even the best pilots need a great wingman. Oh, thank you, HelloFresh, so much for sponsoring this show. We're deeply grateful to you and all the Patreon folks who have lost all aspects of their mental faculties and think that giving us money is somehow intelligent. We don't know why you do it, but we are grateful to you as well. So, all right. So there you were, new lieutenant in your squadron, and sitting in one of those interminable meetings, death by meeting, right?
Oh yeah.
And but that's what lieutenants do. You know, they sit in meetings, take notes, be the wingman for a while, as evidenced by the I love the Dos Gringos song. We're the wingmen. Don't know any.
That's a great song.
Yeah. But all of a sudden, life changed for a lot of people in a lot of ways. More people got rocked to their foundation that morning, and I think you did some growing up that day. That's just a side and hopefully not a snarky observation. I don't intend it to be, but tell us how your day went, please.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, so Chunk comes in and says, an aircraft just hit the World Trade Center. And we looked at each other like, what kind of bozo does that?
Were you thinking like I was thinking when I
Little
got that
airplane?
information? That it was like a Cessna that flew into the side of it, like in the fog or something?
Well, it was beautiful. It was crystal clear down in DC and up in New York. And we typically share similar weather patterns, but maybe it was foggy on the Hudson, but someone could not have pooched their instrument approach that badly. So it had to have been like one of those little Cessnas flying down the river doing tourist flights or something, just bounced off a building, or we'll hear stuff about the cars and the pedestrians below, but kind of no big deal. So to be honest, we're fighter squad. We make a couple inappropriate black humor jokes and just got back to business. And it wasn't until Chunks came back the second time and said, a second aircraft hit the second World Trade Center. It was on purpose. And that's when we got up and we walked to the squadron bar and we saw what everyone else saw on the television that morning.
Yeah.
Shit just got real.
Got real. Yep.
We knew we had to get airborne. We knew we had to protect. But the challenge is that we're a guard unit. We're not part of the active duty. we are not an alert unit because we talked at the beginning of the show how the nation cut the Air Force in half. Well, guess what? They chopped the vast majority of alert units. They shut them down. And so when I first got into the squadron and I get my tour of the base, I see some of these crazy looking little hangars and they're being used for storage, right? And, one of the master sergeant who's giving me the tour is like, oh yeah, we used to sit alert and that's where they kept the jets. And that was the alert facilities, but we just use it to store stuff now, So we hadn't set alert for years.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
So the problem here is that, we're a guard unit. We're not part of the active duty. We're not part of the alert enterprise for NORAD or anything like that. And the other thing is we're the District of Columbia Air National Guard. Now, most guards, whether Army or Air Force, most guard, their civilian commander-in-chief is their governor.
Right. You don't have one.
We don't have a governor. And the mayor of D.C. is not our civilian commander-in-chief. The mayor of this, they're not it. Our commander-in-chief is the president.
Wow.
And you can imagine he was pretty busy right then.
Yeah,
now,
he had
typically,
some stuff going on.
Yeah, President Bush was pretty busy. We were not on the top of his mind. So, we've got to get plugged into the national response to get airborne over DC. And that's going to require us to work through the chain of command to get the authorization to launch. And we've also got to get weapons.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize when we fly around, we look like we're loaded to the guns, but they're just concrete tubes and concrete bombs. Yeah. They've got the right electronics so that we can play war and debrief ourselves and check to make sure our parameters, our launches, and like all of that was done appropriately, but they can't hurt anybody or anything, right? Maybe it falls on your toe, like your foot, but so we've got to get weapons and we've got to get that authorization to launch. Those are the two big challenges that we have.
Right. And I'm going to just jump in ever so briefly. So this is going to be show 145. Show 141, actually, we had with a gent by the name of Shyster, who was the Marine on duty in the White House that morning and spent the rest of the day in the PIAC with the National Security Advisor and the Vice President and all that. So he gave us some perspective from their point of view to include, they thought they shot down Flight 93 when they first heard it went down. They heard an airplane go right over the White House that had launched by was it a colonel and someone else's authority? They completely jumped the chain and said, we're getting airborne because we got to get the second airborne White House down to the president, things like that. So people were operating in all kinds of crazy ways that day.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion. And we knew, I say we, I mean, let's just be clear. I am still FNG stage, right? I've earned my name. I've earned my name lucky, but I'm still a wingman. I am still, filling my toolkit with SA and all of that. So when I say we, this is really the leadership of the squadron and the guys that are in the building that day, which was a skeleton crew. Yeah. Really impressive. I mean, we just got back from Red Flag and these guys have been working together, flying together, operating together, whether or not that's across maintenance and the weapon shop, and munitions and all of that. They are a well-greased team and they're a team built on trust. And so their ability to think through the problem set, again, incredible leaders, incredible competence. And I would love to think that the 121st is special, but I will tell you that every fighter squadron out there in the United States Air Force has that special magic that I witnessed that day in my unit. So Mark Sasseville is our director of operations. He is the adult leadership that day. Raisin Kane, Dan Kane is our weapons officer. Yeah, there's Sass. Retired as a 3-star.
Nice.
Dan Kane is our weapons officer. Just, brilliant. He also recently retired as a 3-star. Phil Dog Thompson was one of our part-timers. He was an old F4 pilot, and he had a big fluffy Vietnam mustache, and he just one of those crusty old guys, just full of good common sense. He was our supervisor of flying that day, so he was responsible for the flying operations. And so this is an example of some of the leadership that we had in the squadron that morning. So as they're talking through the problem set, they realize if we were to launch right now, I mean, first of all, we don't have weapons. We got to get weapons. So Raisin calls down to the bomb dump, says, hey, I need you guys to build me up some AIM-9s, and I need you to build them up fast. Get them to the front line as soon as you can.
Yesterday.
Yeah, like yesterday. Now,
and AIM-9s are air missiles.
Yeah, they're the infrared heaters, right? The heat missiles. And folks need to realize that you don't just like cut open the shrink wrap and poof, you have a missile. I mean, these things are built like Legos. Because each, the seeker and the fins and the guidance kit and the fuse.
They all have to be assembled.
Has to be assembled because they all have inspection dates and they'll have expiration dates and things like that. So they've got to actually build all of that up. And the other thing is that normally for the Air Force, this comes down 3 days in advance with the air tasking order to optimize the weapons for the mission and all of that. So here we are at home in good guy land, and Major Kane, because Raisin was major at the time, calls down and says, I need you to build up some missiles. And they're thinking like, what the hell? Like, really? Truly a testament to his leadership, the relationships that he had built, his credibility. And to this day, Raisin has had that kind of incredible leadership impact on every organization and team that he has worked with and led. Truly a phenomenal individual, which I respect and adore to this day. They start building those up. But taken off, even if we could instantaneously manifest those weapons, would have only added confusion to the day. Because repeat, like what you were talking about. Yeah, there's Raisin. There's Raisin. Repeat, like you were talking about. There was so much confusion. There was so much misinformation, trying to figure stuff out, that if we had gotten airborne, we could have added to that confusion because nobody was in command and control for us. And if we'd gotten airborne, who were we going to talk to? Who were we going to work with, collaborate with? And we knew that the target was an airliner with innocent civilians, Americans on board. Right. And so
nobody thought of that. I mean, this was not even a possibility before.
We went through hijacking training in my FTU, right? Like it was something we all joked about. It was like a 30-minute little video. And it was, okay, so if something gets hijacked and you have to deal with a hijacker, you do a single side offset, which is a geometry of intercept. You pull up next to the cockpit, you wave at them, get their attention, go over to 121.5, talk to them, see where they want to land, escort them to landing, and let the SWAT take care of it, right? I mean, like...
Right, yeah.
So in a pre-9/11 world, it was such
cooperate and graduate.
Different paradigm.
Yeah,
paradigm for hijacking.
We never thought hijacked airplane would be turned into a missile.
A weapon.
Well, and we had experienced, remember the 1970s, all those hijacked airliners, early 80s, all those hijacked airliners, they always landed somewhere. They had some kind of demand. So, they had negotiating teams and SWAT teams. And like we had seen that playbook. We just never seen this one. So now we suddenly know that the target is going to be an American civilian airliner, not even a valid military target. We could not go after that without the authority and direction of the National Command. It can only come from there. So those are the problems that we're working. Our wing commander, General David Worley, had come down from the wing building. He's sitting in the ops desk, and he's trying to work the chain of command to weave through, the joint state headquarters, and we still call it state headquarters, and, through the Army and all of that, to try to find someone who has the authority and the willingness to say, yes, take off, get airborne.
Yeah. And then, let me add also, Shyster told us, that the president and the SecDef are the two that can order weapons free, so to speak. And they can't find SecDef because guess what? He's somewhere in the parking lot of the Pentagon because they've evacuated that building. So he's out of the loop too. Yeah.
And I mean, like we had pagers, you might have one of those little electronic calendar thingies if you were really a big deal, but people just forget that we didn't have the level of connectivity back then that we have today. So SAS is calling over to Andrews Tower. And because, as you know, Air Force One operates off of Andrews. And so if he can get a hold of them, then maybe they can get in touch with the Secret Service, who can get in touch with the president. And maybe we can short circuit, go around.
That's some outside the box thinking right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
That's outside the box. That's awesome.
So as a lieutenant, what am I doing? I'm building up the maps and the told cards and the mission data and our data transfer cards, basically all of our electronics. I'm doing the mission planning, if you will, for this. But how do you mission plan for something like this? There's no forward line of troops. There's no forward edge of the battle area. There's nothing, we don't know. So we're having to make it up. Okay, so where's critical infrastructure? What are targets that they might want to hit, and so forth. So we're trying to get all that figured out.
Yeah, never in your wildest mind are you thinking passenger airliner.
So, I mean, to be honest, there wasn't much to mission plan. We had all the materials set up pretty quickly, and so at some point, the Brandon Igor Rasmussen was a young captain. He was actually an active duty pilot that had been sent to the Guard to get more experience and do more seasonings, because his unit that he had just come from didn't fly him enough because their jets were too broken. So he needed to still get hours and upgrades and things like that. So he had been embedded with us, and really, really great dude. So at some point, Sass and Raisin take me and Igor into a briefing room. They're like, we got to figure this out. What happens? Okay, so where might there be threats? And by the way, at the same time, our intel officer, David Nuts McNulty, is doing what we now call open source intelligence, right? Because we're not plugged into anything. No one's telling us anything. So Nuts has his intel shop. They are calling airline reservations desks, operations desks, the air traffic controllers, trying to figure out who is under positive control and who is not. He's trying to figure out what the air order of battle is. And at this point, they think there might be up to 3 unaccounted for aircraft. And this is back of the napkin math, right? I mean, so Nuts knows that there is error in here. He just doesn't know how much, right? It's the best accounting that he can do. So Sass and Raisin and Brandon and Igor and I are in the briefing room trying to figure stuff out. Now, when I say that, Igor and I are sitting down, lips shut, like every good wingman should be. And Sass and Raisin are talking through the problem set of, okay, so how would you do this? You'd probably want to bracket it or maybe do a single side offset, thinking about the different intercept geometries. Probably doing a single side offset gives you better control over the wingman. And so we know that we've got 105 rounds of bullets in each aircraft. They're all training projectiles, so they're just lead BB guns, 20 mil BB guns, because they're not the high explosive incendiary rounds. We don't even have a full loadout of 510 each. So in a 1-2 ship, that's 210 rounds of lead bullets. And as they think through the target of an airliner, that's not going to be enough. And
you're hoping to get some headshots or something in there, maybe, right?
Well, but
yeah,
you do a headshot,
on who?
Well, if you try to take out the cockpit, take out the cockpit, or you try to take out, an engine, and we've weaponeered what it would take to take out a Soviet bomber or a Soviet type of AWACS or a large cargo aircraft. Yeah. And we know based off of the weaponeering data that this isn't going to be enough.
I was going to say, pick me. 210 rounds of lead ammunition isn't going to bring down an airliner unless you get really lucky.
No, it's not. And so that's where that's where it begins to dawn us that we don't get the missiles in time. That this will have to be something different. But we're still moving forward on the missiles, right?
Yeah.
And it's that you have the time compression, that fog of war, the Pentagon gets hit. And we are just sick to our stomach. We are too late. And it's
boom.
After that we finally get the call from the Secret Service from Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney gives us the authorization to launch.
Yep.
Yeah, we got that. We got that from Scheisser.
Yeah.
He was there when it all went down. It was like, holy shit. So please continue.
Yeah. So Raisin looks at me, goes, "Lucky you're with me." Or Sass looks at me, goes, "Lucky you're with me. Raisin, you and Igor are waiting until you get missiles. Lucky,
Whoa.
let's go." And, I asked him, I was like, why did you pick me? I mean, like, I'd love to think it's because I was a shit hot wingman, right? Like, I am burning it up. And then I began to think, and this is retrospectively, right? Years later, thinking like, why did he pick me? And,
Right.
He needed to have Raisin's tactical leadership, right? So you had to hold someone back in case we failed, or whoever was going to come feed the fight afterwards. And Raisin is clearly that tactical leadership. And Igor had a wife and 2 kids, so he's got a young family at home. And I got a dog.
Yeah.
So I'm clearly expendable.
Yeah. He didn't say that. To talk about tactical leadership, right? I mean, you put this all together later.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But-
no, I'm not, this is not what I'm thinking about real time.
No, hell no.
No.
Wow.
But,
that's a lot of horsepower right there.
Yeah. I mean, and thank goodness that we had, the people, the quality people in the squadron and the quality people in the squadron in that day in those positions. Because, another thing, we've got Mark Drifter Valentine. This is his first day. He's just coming from active duty, just coming from Nellis, where he's an instructor pilot at Fighter Weapons School. And he's going to be the scheduler. And he gets tossed into this. This is his first day. Great orientation. He is leaning forward and thinking about tomorrow's fight and how he's going to keep filling the schedule because everyone's gone, right?
Yeah.
So Drifter is on the phone, going through the recall roster, trying to find pilots, if they're local, come on in right now. He's putting people into crew rest. And a lot of our guys were stuck out because they were airline pilots and they were getting grounded. So they were scattered across the nation. So Drifter's calling over to our sister squadron, the 201st. They do DV airlift. And he's trying to make drug deals where they will take their DV 727 and go do a round robin and pick up all of our stranded pilots to bring them back. Cause we gotta start feeding this combat air patrol, right?
Right.
Drifter is leaning forward to this. Sandy Campbell, she was our chief that day. We called her a witch. She was a badass, man. She is like going into overdrive. She's turning briefing rooms into cots and bedrooms and dark rooms. And she's calling everybody to come on back in, and she's in touch with the wives, and like suddenly she is transforming the squadron. She was amazing.
Nice.
But we get the word, and Seth says, "All right, Lucky, you're with me." And I run down after him down into life support, and I'm thinking, okay, if anything mattered in my life, it's now. I have got to get this right, and so I'm as quickly as I can, double checking. Okay, I got my DTC, I got my lineup card, I've got my checklist, I have my helmet, and I'm pulling on my G suit really quick, and I'm zipping it up, and that's when Sass looks at me, he goes, "I'll ram the cockpit." And I would take the tail because we did not have missiles on board yet.
Whoa!
I'm going to repeat that.
He said that to
because
you hold on a second. You're zipping up your G suit and you're in life support, and he looks at you and says, "I'll ram the cockpit."
Yep.
You take the tail.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That sucked the air right out of my room.
Yeah. Ditto.
But we had been thinking about this for a little bit, and at that moment in life support, well, it makes it real, right? It makes it real.
Yeah.
But it's people go like, "Oh my God, were you? How'd you feel?" I had so much calm, and I knew that this was why I was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no moments of female hysteria or anything like that. Like
no.
there was.
You're a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
We got a job to do.
You're a fighter pilot.
And if God had put me in this place right then and there, it was for this purpose. I was going to go out and do my job.
Fuck.
So,
We're running. Yeah, we don't stop by ops desk to check out and sign the orders and do any of that. We just I'm just running after SAS. And you got to remember, like, I'm not really that big in my life. All my gear weighs probably about half as much as my body weight, and I'm trying to run, and SAS is he is taking a lead. He is like opening up the distance between me and him. And I'm thinking, man, he's an old guy. How's he run so fast?
wow.
But we were bolting to the jets, and he took the first jet on the line, and I took the one right next to him. And again, like, we hadn't talked through this part. We were not an alert squadron. I mean, SAS had set nuclear alert, right? So he has this all, kind of figured out, but the jets aren't hot cocked. They're not set to just like start and go. And I have never been trained for this. And so I'm just thinking this is going to be the fastest start I have ever had, but it's also going to be the best, right? Like I can't skip steps. I've got to make sure that I do everything right because I can't fuck this up.
No.
So I run up to the jet, and I'm getting ready to do my pre-flight, and SAS is already in the seat, and he's like, "Lucky, what the fuck are you doing? Get in the goddamn jet!" I scramble up the ladder, and I just like kind of fall into the cockpit, and my crew chief just yanks the ladder right behind me. He doesn't climb up after me and like, strap my harness in or anything like that. And, there's none of that. I mean, like, boom, I am on my own. Wow. And this is where it occurs to me, like, this is not going to be by the checklist. We didn't have GPS.
Oh, my tech end doesn't work. Jets down. Can't go. Sorry.
No calling for balls.
This is serious. This is some outside the box shit right now.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't have time for checklists. I have to use my systems knowledge of the aircraft to
muscle
get
memory
it started as fast as I can.
Yeah. You're trying to keep up at this point, and you cannot fail. Fail is not an option. You can't say, "Hey, I need 5 minutes because I'm behind." No, you can't say that.
Yeah. So, I mean, master battery on, JFA start 2, watching the RPM, 20%, over the hump to idle, watching the RPM and the temperature, right, 40%, less than 750. It's a good start. I do my sec check. I do my EPU check. I do my flick to bit 43, which is the minimum you have to do to make sure that you've got a safe flying platform for the digital flight control system. And then I am yelling at my crew chief, pull the chocks. He's actually plugged in, which kind of surprised me. And I'm getting ready to like jump the chocks in afterburner because SAS is starting to taxi, right? And he yanks the chocks, and the jet lurches forward. And as I'm following SAS down to the taxiway Echo, I'm looking down, and I still have crew chief under my airplane.
Oh my gosh! Like trying to pull pins and shit.
Yes, yeah, they're pulling pins out of my gear.
Gosh,
they're pulling pins out of my gear, out of my EPU, out of my chaff and flare.
That's good to have. Get the pins out of your gear. Got to have those out.
Yep.
Oh my gosh!
Because it was so fast. Now I don't have a radar. I don't have a navigation system.
No.
We do not have GPS in the jets. They're still ring laser gyros. So I do not have
INSs. All right.
I don't have a stabilization. And the INS isn't just about like, do I know where I am laterally? It's everything in the airplane, right?
It's your attitude platform. It's
exactly.
Everything. Yeah.
And it was about a 10-minute spool up.
Well, at the time, because we just got the ring laser gyros, it was an 8-minute spool up.
Okay.
So I reached back and I'm
the
like,
longest 8 minutes in history.
I hope this in-flight align thing works. Right. I had never pressed to test that before. So, I mean, like, I am taking off, and I'm going to basically be like a supersonic J3 Cub.
Nice.
And so I'm turning all my systems on. I'm hoping the bits are going. I'm not even strapped into the jet.
Well, you're not going to need that ejection seat anyway. Supersonic J3 Cub. I think we got a show title there, Fig.
No, I got a better show title.
There's some other ones. That's true. Fair enough. But, I'm sorry. I've interrupted.
Oh, no. I mean, SAS takes off. I mean, I'm following on the frequencies, and we get cleared any altitude, any direction by tower, and we take
any
off.
altitude. Hold on a second. That is a clearance you don't hear every day. Any altitude, any direction, cleared for takeoff.
Cool.
I mean, seriously, that's some fucking serious shit.
And it was So quiet. It was so quiet because, you know,
Yeah, everyone else is landing.
Everyone the FAA had brought everyone down, right? So we push over to Potomac because we knew Phil Thompson was talking to Potomac and Nuts McNulty, our intel officer, were talking to Potomac, and Potomac's like, we think another one's coming down the river. So we take off to the northwest.
Were you heading towards Flight 93?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. Nope. They had us tasked towards Flight 93. And we never found anything. Because the passengers...
Yeah, that was the first battle right there.
Yeah. The passengers had taken the fate of their lives and of our nation into their own hands and had already crashed the airliner.
But you were on, so you guys were...
We didn't know that.
When you took off, you were heading towards what they thought was the next airplane coming down the river, which was going to be Flight 93 because it turned around and wasn't talking to anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, retrospectively looking back, they crashed about 20 minutes before we ever took off.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
But we didn't know that.
Right. You had no way to know that. Mm-hmm. And as Shyster said, when that happened, when they found out 93 was down, Dick Cheney turned to him and said, Major, I need your full name for the congressional investigation, because he had just ordered an airliner shot down.
They weren't sure that you guys
they thought they'd done
hadn't shot it down already. Yeah. I mean, seriously, that's some fuck. So we're putting, Repeat and I are getting all this information right now from different times, but we're putting it all together and we're like, holy shit, you guys were the ones that Dick Cheney launched.
Yeah. Sess and me. Yeah. And honestly, if we were mission successful, we weren't coming home. I mean, I was, right. No. And that's what we were hoping for. It is our job to protect and defend.
Right.
And so when we turned back around and set up and SAS set up the Combat Air Patrol, and then Raisin and Igor get airborne, and we're all doing the Combat Air Patrol, and SAS and Raisin are teaching Potomac how to talk fighter pilot and AWACS language and pointing out, entities that are flying. And kudos to the controllers. They were phenomenal. I mean, these are civilians whose jobs are to separate aircraft, keep them on, away from each other and track them on highways in the sky. Suddenly now they're pointing out aircraft using bullseye language, so it worked for our radar, and they're adding
steep learning curve,
and they rocked it. They were amazing.
Nice.
And we got the free fire order from the White House, which was just mind blowing. And again, such kudos to the professionalism of everyone who was airborne that day, that no one got trigger happy, because it was still really confusing. 9/11, we lived in two different universes because we didn't have the 24/7 media. So if you were a dude just getting up, you check the morning news at 6 a.m., you're like, damn, it's a good day to go fly. You go to the airport, you hop in your little airplane, and you're just burning dinosaurs. You're just burning, holes in the sky just for joy. And all of a sudden, now you get thumped by an F-16. Crazy. Yeah, because they had no idea. They weren't trying to do anything dumb or dangerous. They just ended up in a different universe. It was two parallel universes that day. So I see we got a question about single bike. So we were still actually configured for surface to air attack. And so, I'm sorry, surface attack. So we had 2 bags of gas on. We were still carrying ECM pods. And
when you say take, can you define 2 bags of gas for our listeners?
Yeah. So normally we'd fly around, we'd have 2 external fuel tanks loaded up under the wings, and that took us up to 12,600 pounds.
Okay. Thank you.
And so that gave us roughly about 2.5 hours of flight time. But after SAS and I had been airborne for a little bit, the quits out of Langley, it's the Duluth Guard, has a detachment out of Langley doing the alert mission. And when they were scrambled, they went out over the Atlantic and then kind of got caught there. and had issues trying to get back into the national airspace because we were set up to go
You're not allowed in.
Soviet bombers, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what their time frame was, but they showed up at 18,000 feet, and we get a call from Potomac saying, "Hey, there's these guys who are trying to get a hold of you." And so SAS continued to talk with Potomac on UHF. He and I were tied on the VHF frequency. So these are the different radios. We have 2 radios in the cockpit. One's UHF, so one is VHF. We use the VHF for our intra-flight frequency, so we can talk to each other. So SAS is talking to Potomac on UHF. I'm tied to him via VHF, and he sends me over on UHF to go talk to NEADS and the quits. So
who is that? Who is that?
The quits are the F-16s out of Langley.
Okay, thank you.
And they're also connected with the Northeast Air Defense Sector, NEADS.
Okay,
and they're scrambling in AWACS, and they're bringing tankers. So that's fantastic because now we're starting to.
Are they not talking to Giant Killer for coordination?
No.
Oh, okay.
They sent an AWACS to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I could be taking hazy on that.
That's okay.
But it wasn't Giant Killer.
Not important. Not germane.
No, I'm just again, it just goes to show how much more confusion there was that, as Tyson put it, everybody's got a plan until someone gets punched in the face. And then
yeah.
Hey, I'm going to, let's take a quick time out. I want you to backtrack about 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. Bullseye. Repeat, we all know what that means. Can you kind of define what that means to our
and why that was important?
Listeners? Yeah, why that was,
Because we had our old-fashioned radar scopes didn't look like what your Google Maps looks like. And it's just a green scope, right? And where you take the pie slice that your radar can see and you pull out the triangle nose of the pie to make it a square. It can really distort how your radar returns look to you and where you are. So we take what we call bullseye as a physical location on the planet, and we say, put bullseye here. So SAS says, all right, Potomac, you got a TACAN called DCA, call that bullseye. And if something is to the east for 20 miles and it's at 3,000 feet, I want you to say bullseye 090 3000 or 20 for bullseye 090 20 for 3000. And that's going to give us the radial, the altitude, or the radial, the distance, and the altitude that we need to be able to correlate that to our cursor on the radar. And that way we know we're looking at the same thing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, that was an excellent.
Man, I couldn't have done that.
It would have taken me 10
words.
minutes to describe that, what you did in 20 seconds. Perfect.
There you go.
And even though we've got, like, if you take a look at the tactical situation displays that F-35s have, and we're upgrading all of our legacy fighters to have them as well. So it really does look like a Google Maps for you. We still use the bullseye as a way to be able to differentiate and correlate entities that we see within the battle space. So I know that you're looking at the same thing that I'm looking at. And of course, data links make that a lot smoother, faster, and less error prone. But it's still something that we have to master and use.
Okay. So you come to find out it's
we didn't find anything out until we landed.
Until after you landed. Okay. All right.
Yeah. We didn't find anything out until after we landed. Now, it's important to back up here a little bit because I'm just telling you like SAS and my version of the story. But you remember there was that bully flight that went out to go do BSA down at Air Force Dare. Well, Dog, our SOF, had called down to the Dare County Ranger and was like, hey, I need you guys to send him back and tell him to bust her because we need all the jets and all the pilots we can get. So, Puck, who was the other lieutenant, he was bully too. He actually had bingoed out early and he had come back into the airspace and it was trying to come back into the airspace and was having issues. And so, we're all, there's a point in time here. It sounds like we were busy the whole time, but there was a lot of just like sitting around waiting. So we're all hawking the ops desk and Puck calls in. He goes, hey, guards off this bully too. And Dog picks up the radio and he goes, bully 2, guards off, go. And Puck says, hey, like Potomac's not, they don't want to let me back into the airspace. And Dog says, okay, you just keep coming home. I'll take care of this. And Dog picks up the phone, calls over to Potomac Tracon. No, he's one of ours. You need to let him in. And a few minutes later, Puck calls back and he goes, they're asking me if I've got any like bombs or missiles on board. What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Don't you worry about that. You just keep on coming home. So Puck comes in home. He lands safely, and he joins the fight. And it wasn't a couple weeks till I could listen to his tapes. And the ATIS, this was the Andrews Air Force Base ATIS as he's coming in. Now, for listeners that don't know what ATIS is, the Aerodrome Terminal Information System. And it's a voice recorded loop that just plays over and over and over.
Thank you.
And it gives gives pilots the information they need to come into land, what the active runway is, what the weather is, what the barometric pressure is, what the winds are doing, and all of that. So for and it has an alphanumeric code. So you check in with the code, and if you have the current code, then Tower doesn't have to repeat all this information to you.
Yeah, you say I'm checking in with Alpha or Bravo or whatever the code.
Yeah. So this is what Andrews said. This is Andrews Air Force Base Information Bravo. Andrews Air Force Base is closed. Washington Class Bravo airspace is closed. Any aircraft attempting to enter Washington Class Bravo airspace will be shot down.
Oh, shit.
Advise you have Bravo.
A bunch of information, Bravo.
WTF.
Yeah. So it was heard by no one ever except him.
Except Puck. Yeah.
Oh.
So Billy and Shooter is bully 1, Billy Hutchison's bully 3. They get sent home. And they actually are coming in to the overhead. They're hitting initial when we're getting the go word. So they come in, they land, and as they're landing, that's like when we're getting the authorization to launch. And Dog asks Shooter, who's bully 1, he goes, Shooter, how much gas you got? And Luke Campbell he's got 400 pounds.
Oh shit.
Because they told him, Buster, come home as fast as you can, right? So they are mill power all the way home.
Hey, so real quick, Buster, would you define Buster for our listeners?
Come back at mill power.
Okay.
So 100%, but not
put
using
it
afterburner.
Put it up in the corner at 100% and go as fast as you can.
But no afterburner, right?
Okay. Thank you.
And then, so he asked what bully 3, and Billy Hutchison has 800 pounds of gas, which is already that's shut down gas, right?
Yeah, that's what you want to be shutting down in the chalks with. 800 pounds. Yeah.
So he goes, okay, Billy, they think another one's coming down the river. You got just enough gas to take off and do one pass. They think it's coming in low. So Billy is actually the first dude airborne off of Andrews to go look for Flight 93.
Wait. Can you back up 15 seconds? I think I lost that. So he's not on the ground yet. He's got
they both are on the ground. They're both on the ground, right?
Oh,
they come up initial, they pitch out, they land. They're taxiing back on taxiway Echo, and that's when Dog says hey, how much gas you guys got? So Billy goes zorching, as fast, taxiing as fast as he can down Echo, and he takes off. And Sass and I are seconds behind him.
And he's taking off with 800 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gutsy move.
Because they think somebody's coming down the river towards DC.
Yeah, and we already saw the Pentagon had already been hit. So Dog is launching as much as he possibly can. And at this point in time, they're starting to bring the weapons. So he doesn't want to launch Raisin and Igor because, first of all, Raisin and Igor actually have SA on what the hell is going on. I mean, if you think about the bullies, they're out bombing for quarters, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're
on a training. They're on an air to ground training mission. Yes.
Yeah, they're on an air to ground training mission. They're kind of in this in between world where they're not quite pre 9/11, but they haven't seen the footage. Right. And I think a lot of us would agree that you had to see the video to really know.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So Dog's keeping Raisin and Igor on the ground till they can get those missiles. So
Okay.
he's making the decision. Look, I gotta send somebody out as soon as I can. He doesn't really know how long it's going to take for Sasami to get going. So he's going to launch those guys because they're his nearest asset, his fastest asset. So Billy takes off. He's got 800 pounds, and Dog said go low. So Billy's like at 100 feet, and he goes zorching right over the Pentagon, right over North Parking, up to Great Falls, and then back down, and kind of comes back down by Quantico, and then comes back in and lands. Like he's used up all his gas. He's like he is on fumes, right?
Oh man,
That's what they heard going. That's what they heard going over the Capitol.
yeah.
It was him.
It was probably Billy because he's 800 pounds in afterburner. It was pretty ballsy, but I mean that's what he was told to do. So we ended up hearing this story, and I know there's the story of the Marine Corps guys that took care of the CDC, the Child Development Center. So our ops group commander, our ops group commander, Tuna Johnson, spent the weeks afterwards in the Pentagon, and the Pentagon smoldered and burned for months, trying to figure stuff out and figure out the rules of engagement and transfer of command authority and all of that.
Right.
So Tuna's in the Pentagon, and he's walking down one of the hallways, and a dude stops him and is like, "Are you from the 121st?" And Tuna stands up straight. He goes, "Yeah, I am. What can I do for you?" Because this is what this guy said. Everyone was evacuating. You talked about the Secretary of Defense being evacuated from the parking lot.
Right.
Well, so you evacuated the metro area, about the South Parking. Well, if you were over by the river entrance, you evacuated not there to the parking at the river entrance because it's pretty small parking. You went over the library and across the bridge, across 110 to North Parking. Okay. And so people are flowing out and they're going over the bridge north. And when they get to North Parking, that's kind of like an island, right? You've got Highway 110, which is really busy. You've got the Potomac on the other side and the marina. And so people who had cars over there got in their cars and went away, but there weren't a whole lot. So there's still a lot of people just milling around. And at the base of the bridge is the Child Development Center. And the women are evacuating too. But they're evacuating like for a fire alarm. Because that's what you evacuate for. So they've got 6 toddlers to a buggy and 4 babies to a crib on wheels, and they get out there and they realize they got to go over the bridge, but there's too many babies. And so they are literally giving babies away to strangers.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Chubby little hands into the hands of strangers, sir, can you please take them? I can't carry them all. And so they go over the bridge, and they're over sitting in North Parking, and I think a bunch of Marines had come over and started to help take care of taking the babies and making sure nobody got away and doing accountability and all of that. But like everyone's really quiet. They're just because they know there's something coming. They just don't know, right?
Right.
And the smoke, it's coming up out of the southwest. It's floating over towards the mall, and so they're like underneath a smoke path too. I mean, they're just basically waiting to die, is because they're trapped. And Billy goes zipping right over him in full afterburner. And they started cheering because they knew that American fighter jets were airborne and that they were going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fuck yeah, America is what that is.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Thank you for that. Dude!
Yeah. I mean, this is just one of those. So Fig and I started this almost 3 years ago because there are
He's
stories.
Speechless. He's rarely speechless.
There are stories that need to be told. And this is one of them.
Yeah.
And I've put up on the video feed a aerial shot of the Pentagon. So I see the bridge that you're talking about there on the left side of the screen, I believe. Mm-hmm. And this is just.
No, this is stuff that nobody knows, Lucky.
Nobody knows. Unless they were there. Yeah. Unless they were there, nobody knows it.
This is really awesome.
Fascinating, terrifying.
People need to know these things, right? For fuck's sake.
So, Lucky, at what point did you realize the real gravity? I mean, okay, because, you're trying to get everything done and get it all right and all that. At what point did you get that adrenaline dump and go, oh, holy shit?
Honestly, I didn't, because we came back, we did the combat air patrol, we landed, we got whisked away to debrief some senior leaders. We went back, we flew a second sortie, we escorted Air Force One in, I went home, I was exhausted, and I felt like a mission failure.
Just because you escorted it, Air Force One in, and
well, we didn't.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
we didn't stop anything that day.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but you know what? Yeah, there was no failure there.
Isn't that something? Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I think we're missing. I think we're missing a bigger point here.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard you say at the end of the day, you felt it was a failure.
I was a mission failure. We were a mission failure.
And tell me why you think that, or you thought that at the time.
Oh, I still think that, because we did not get airborne in time to stop the Pentagon from getting hit. We did not get airborne in time to find Flight 93. And I mean, thank goodness for the DNA of Americans, because not a single one of those passengers was a veteran, a military member, cop, a first responder. They, none of them had raised their right hand, but they still made the right decision. They chose to sacrifice their lives to protect us, to protect all of us. But they should not have had to make that decision. We were a mission failure.
I'm gonna speak for Repeat and I both. We're all the same mindset, and I understand the way you feel, and I probably would have felt the exact same way if I had been in your shoes. But that is like survivor's guilt, is what that is.
Yeah,
there's nothing
no doubt about it.
No, there's nothing you could have done to stop that in retrospect.
Scheisler put it in a great way. He was like, the problem is, this is why you weren't there on time. We were looking outward for the enemy, not inward.
Yeah. We were looking for Soviet bombers coming over the poles. That was the paradigm.
Yep. Wow.
And, So
talk about recaging your gyro, huh? Repeat. Is your gyro recaged? Because I'm recaged right now.
Oh man, yeah. And I don't know how long it's going to get me to get the hair on the back of my neck and my arms to lay back down after this.
Yeah, you've laid a lot. It's gonna be some time for me to process all this, and I'm probably gonna have to listen to this a couple of times again to get it all. But wow,
fantastic information.
So how many times does this go through your? I mean, do you wake up with this still, or?
No, I don't, but I'll tell you, it has fundamentally shaped my life, because what I do now as a senior fellow at the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies is I'm a defense policy expert, and I do research on advanced technologies and future warfare concepts, and to provide policy recommendations for senior leadership within the Air Force, OSD, and our leaders on the Hill. Because I was sent on a suicide mission our nation was unprepared for and lacked the imagination for. And because of that, I was sent on a suicide mission. And it is my mission to make sure that the young men and women who are wearing the cloth of our country coming behind me today are not also sent on a suicide mission.
Harumph.
Drop the mic.
I need a harumph out of that guy right there.
Yeah, right. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
You watch your ass. I need a harumph out of you right now. Okay. Dude, I mean, that's spot on. That is spot on.
Right. Exactly.
Jeez. How long you been doing? Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, that's my question. How long you been doing that now?
I have been doing it for 6 years now. And my most recent paper is why we need to have experienced combat pilots in the Air Force and what we can do to maximize our combat experience. Because a lot of folks, we talked about this in the beginning of the show, folks might not realize that the Air Force is short 2,000 pilots and they're short 1,200 fighter pilots.
Yeah.
Isn't that
And
something?
we are too small to do the job that our nation asks us to do on a daily basis. This is just peacetime normal rotations, much less be able to deter and win should we be called to fight against China or Russia.
Right. So,
I mean,
Yeah.
this needs to be fixed yesterday.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
and you said you weren't an engineer, but that's simple math right there.
Yeah, even I can do it, right?
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I like ask a completely off subject question that goes back about an hour and 35 minutes ago?
No.
Yeah, boy,
Go ahead.
this is a long session for you guys. I'm sorry.
No,
We gotta
that's
wrap this
okay.
here pretty
Listen,
No, we're loving it.
the only reason I
Absolutely
know
loving
it's
it.
that
Every
long
minute.
is because I'm looking at the timer
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no, I'm looking at the
It
timer
seems
too.
like 10 minutes to me since you started talking. I promise you, it's amazing. but can I go back?
This is what happens to you, a fighter pilot on a first date. Well, enough about me. What do you think about me?
Yeah. No, enough about flying. Let's talk about me. So your dad, fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm.
What did he fly? Where was he? Was he a guard guy, reserve guy? Was he active duty? I mean, how did that?
Air Force Academy class of 70, went straight into the A7 right after the FDU. Ended up going over to Vietnam. His first combat missions after his LAO, local area orientation there in Vietnam. He flew out of Korat. They started doing missions downtown as part of Linebacker 2, where he was doing combat search and rescue.
Wait, when you say downtown, you're talking about downtown Hanoi.
Hanoi, yeah,
Yeah.
downtown Hanoi. So he was doing a
Uptown,
combination of bombing missions and rescue missions. And then later on, he ended up getting out of the active duty and going over to the Guard, where he was a high roller. And we lived in
Reno. F4s?
Yeah, F4s, RF4s. He was a recce puke. And but he was also a test pilot for a little company called Learfan, and he got into some cool stuff with air racing and things like that.
That's awesome. Okay, I had that as a thing to come back to, and I wanted to get back to it before I forgot, and I just saw it.
Just because we had to show that really sweet picture of my dad. He's a
shiny
handsome
object.
young man.
Hey, that was a great picture. By the way.
Yeah,
Shiny
check
object.
that out.
Bago found that.
Thank you, Bago.
Yeah.
A7 was an awesome airplane, man.
Right.
Not as awesome
was-
as the F-16, and not quite as
my dad
beautiful.
and I have arm wrestling contests about that all the time.
And I was going to say, not quite as handsome as a AV-8B Harrier, but there's all that, and we'll go into that later offline.
It's the big intake, which was a speed break for us.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what to ask. I'm kind of still processing some of the shit I just heard.
Well, I got one or two other quick questions. So you talked about what you're doing now. Is the let me see if I can pull up the media assets here. Where do I find the picture? Is that your bird? Is that your baby?
Yes, yep, that's my Stearman. Yep,
So jealous.
We got a Stearman, a Booker Jungmann, and a Cessna 170.
Where do you keep that? That's
Down
awesome.
at
Actually,
265.
don't say it out loud. That's,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So you guys have you're flying that?
Yeah, that's my baby.
How awesome is that?
Yep,
That's
no.
beautiful. Painted up in French colors.
Actually, so it's really kind of funny. It's got Royal Navy on the side. So we found out afterwards that this airplane served at Sweetwater, Texas, and flew with the Women Air Force Service pilots.
The Wasps.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah,
no kidding.
yeah. So one of these days, when we finally get around to recovering her, we'll go ahead and put her in her actual markings.
Nice.
But yeah.
I'll bet that's a blast. I've never flown a Stearman. It's on my bucket list of things to do. There's a car dealer here in Kansas City that owes me a ride in one because he owns one. He's a former F-15 pilot, and I bought two vehicles from him, and he says he's taking me on a flight. And so I'm
It is like riding a Harley in the sky.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
It's just a joy to fly.
What year is that, Stearman?
She was born in December of 1942.
Nice.
Big, sturdy.
So-
You can feel the mass, and
Right?
but the pitch, she's really light in pitch, but the roll rate you can measure by a sundial.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Excuse me. Oh, that's fantastic. do that radial engine. That's got to be almost as much fun as pushing up the throttles on a Viper. Pushing up the throttle on that thing. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some serious power.
Well, it depends. I mean, we got 225 horse, so she does perform nicely, but she's got a lot of drag, so she's never going to go fast.
Yeah, but just the feeling in the gut and
there's nothing like
it beats you to your core. So, and then I got to ask about one other picture I found out here online. Looks like you got a chance to meet up with Eileen Collins.
Oh yes, no, that was really truly an honor.
Cool.
So, getting to listen to her story and hear about her experience, truly a pathfinder.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where did that take place?
That took place in Wichita. So there was an event there. There was an event there to support aviation, and so she and I were both present.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay.
And you grew up on the West Coast, right? Somewhere?
I grew up in Reno in Colorado.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, but my extended family is all up and down the coast, from Sequim, Washington, all the way down to Southern California.
Nice. All right. Well, we're getting to the point where we probably ought to land the airplane. I've got one last question, which is, and it's kind of a two-parter. What is your favorite airplane that you've flown? And if it's not one of those, what airplane do you most want to fly that you haven't?
So my favorite airplane is whatever I'm flying that day.
Right on.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Good answer.
Good answer.
It is 1,000% true, right?
Right.
Whatever you're flying that day, that's going to be my favorite airplane. And gosh, I got to tell you, my bucket list is huge. It is just huge.
Yeah.
I can't pick just one, right? I mean, like, I've had the privilege of flying a T6 and a Storch. I've got, of course, my little airplanes.
You've flown a Storch. Okay.
Oh my goodness, super fun.
What the hell's a Storch?
Fun.
Okay, I got to plead ignorance.
That's the one that not Pierre.
It's a Luftwaffe short takeoff and landing airplane.
Fig, I've shown the picture of it, and our friend from Canada did
all the like leading edge slats and all that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
But repeat. Are you thinking about the Lysander? The Lizzie?
No, it's a Storch, and I actually have a picture somewhere of me standing next to one. There it is.
Yep. Ah, yes. Yes. I remember this.
Yeah. We had Catherine Kaiser on, who was in her 40s when she got her very first airplane ride ever. Grew up in East Germany, and has since bought it's not a Cheetah, a Traveler, Grumman Traveler, and now crossed the Atlantic 4 times in it. Yeah.
That is ballsy.
Yeah. Let me tell you. Yeah. She's at like 200 feet to avoid icing. She goes, yeah, but I saw whales. So
yeah, some of the stories she told, I literally
Terrifying.
passed out for a minute because
But I met up with her outside Cologne, Germany, and she took me into a hangar, and I got to see a Storch up close and touch it, and I was like, wow,
it's super fun. But like
so
an OV-10 Bronco would be awesome.
Right?
I'd love to go fly that. I'd love to go fly an A-26. I would love, I have a massive bucket list of airplanes. I would love
about
to
F4?
fly.
Would you like to fly an F4?
Hell yeah. Why would you say no to that?
F4 was my number one choice, and they weren't putting any more guys in F4s.
Because they were sunsetting. Yeah.
Yeah. Gone. Done. Yeah.
The lead sled.
Dude.
Hey, can I do a quick? So I have a podcast called Aerospace Advantage, and we focus on aerospace issues and defense. So, and yes, I would totally go fly a helicopter. That would be super fun too.
The Aerospace Advantage?
Mm-hmm.
Aerospace Advantage. Okay.
Yeah, we talk about Air Force issues and now security issues. And so recently we've just talked about our advice for the incoming administration and Congress and things like that for how to advance American aerospace power.
Okay.
That's awesome. And that's on all the...
It's on everywhere. All
everywhere
the podcasts.
You can get podcasts.
Yep.
There it is right there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Look
you.
at that.
Nicely
Bago's on
done.
it. Or
He
Bago
is
or
on
Stick.
it. He is just a wizard on the internet.
Dude, I tell you what, it's either Bago or Sticks.
Sticks and Bago they do this background production work for us, and they're fantastic.
Sometimes they put pictures up before the sentence is even done.
right?
Yeah, and I think that's just, well, they're kind of like witch doctors.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah.
Tag teaming it. There you go. Aerospace Advantage podcast. Go get it.
Well,
So-
Lucky, I'm going to speak for all of us, and I know Repeat's going to echo me, but first of all, thank you for your service.
Right. Amen.
And you know, we're all printed from the same cloth, but that nobody knows how you're gonna perform when you're actually asked to perform. And dude, you set the bar really high, and I'm very impressed by your story, and I'm very humbled that you told it to us. So thank you.
Indeed.
Well, I will say, first of all, that as you know, both of you and anyone who has served, it is truly a privilege. It is a privilege to serve our nation. It is a privilege to serve with the men and women that we spend this part of our lives with, and we would all go back in a heartbeat. And I look at the young kids today, and they're faster, leaner, meaner, and I just wish I could be in their shoes.
Right?
They are amazing. God, the puppies today are just amazing.
I know.
But what our nation will continue to ask of them, we would all go back in a heartbeat and raise our right hands again.
And
dedication and professionalism is off the charts.
I also want to say, and this isn't, well, let me just say it, as a fellow pilot aviator, having served with women in my squadron, I can honestly, and I've trained, when I was instructor pilot, I was training the first naval aviator, women that were going to be in combat. And I can honestly say, it didn't matter to me, whether their genitals hung on the outside or stayed on the inside. If they could fly the shit out of an airplane, I loved them. And obviously you could fly the shit out of an airplane. So,
the jet doesn't care if you're a man or woman, just cares if you know your stuff and you got the right stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And I don't give two shits. And
well, I will tell you, here's the difference. Here's the difference though. And maybe we can make this for afterwards, but
okay.
Whether or not you're a pressure feed system like you are, or a gravity feed system like I am, makes all the difference in the world when it comes to flying a single seat jet for extended periods of time.
Okay. That's probably good for offline.
You said you needed something special I normally don't talk about.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I didn't even go there. I hadn't even thought of that. And quite frankly, Repeat and I know for a fact he and I have crossed the North Atlantic twice strapped in a single seat jet. And I purposefully dehydrated myself both times so I wouldn't have to even worry about
Think about that crap.
I lived 2 decades strategically dehydrated.
Yeah, right.
But sometimes when you're crossing the Atlantic, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah. God bless America, and God bless all the female fighter pilots in the world.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
Chick
Jack.
fighter pilots.
Listen.
I love you, ladies.
Oh, right.
Right on.
Hey, wait. Okay.
You know
This
what
just
really
popped
pisses
into my
me
head.
off is your body's better tolerate the G's.
You stole that. I was going to
I
say
know.
that. Oh my gosh.
It's just so wrong.
I know. So let's go back to on 4 360s into a 9G turn, and I'm thinking, I
might have passed out at least
twice
1.5 in.
Yeah. So there is obviously there's a little physiological difference between the two, species, which I know species, and I'm saying that lightheartedly.
He meant what he did.
Like a Venus Mars kind of way.
Oh yeah, listen,
there you go.
I'm married to one of you people, and I know for a fact that the females are the stronger part of our species. When I say stronger, I mean stronger in every way, mentally, physically, maybe not in the upper torso, but holy shit. So, G tolerance.
And they stay down longer when you're scuba diving. They use less oxygen. It's just not fair.
When you said 4 360s at 9Gs, I'm like, of course she did. Oh, absolutely. And the
dude in the back had to call and
Elvis
lock it
was
off.
like, hey, dude, how about let's because he's probably blacked out twice. He was grayed out, blacked out, and said, okay.
Wakes up again. Oh, crap,
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
still doing it.
You know, exactly. There was no way we were going to meet that desired learning objective. You know? my BFM was so bad.
Yeah. Too funny.
Hey,
all right.
if at least you're in lag pursuit, at least you had shot out in front of him already. Right?
Fair enough.
Because that's usually me. I usually was out in front.
Well, we got to finish our thank yous and land this airplane and then go to our Patreon extra because we're dragging on here. We're taking up way too much of Lucky's time, and she canceled a dinner for us. So thank you for that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Hey, one of you needs to take her to dinner next time you're in her hometown. One of you, and I'm pointing to you mostly.
Yeah. Try. Yep. All right. We also need to thank Dave Hamilton over at Backbeat Media Online, who handles our advertising. Thank you so much to Dave and Skylar, who got us our advertising this week. Thank you to Sadie over at Backbeat Media, who's putting up our videos. What other thank yous do we got? I think Badass is on with us tonight.
Oh yeah, he's been there. He's been some. Thank you, Badass. That's VDS Aviation, Brad Silcott Aviation. The photography, aviation photography, is off the charts.
It's just plain art.
Yeah,
it's art.
Yeah. He lends us pictures from everywhere, and they're amazing.
Yeah. Hey, go to starwars.us/rate and take care of business. Do it now. Pull over. Do it now.
Hey, if you can't give us 5 stars, tell us why. Because we're trainable. At least Repeat is, and he can spin me up. Right?
If you insist on 2 or 3 stars, find another show.
Yeah, there's lots of other shows you can give 3 stars.
Yeah, but not us.
And share the show because it doesn't cost anything. And by the way, that reminds me, we have a merch store. It's so there I was
.us/merch.
And it's February, but hey, I just came from Costa Rica where everybody's wearing bikinis, and I saw 6, not 5, but 6. So there I was, bikinis, when I was down there. So
nice.
Keep them coming because they look good on.
Did you wear yours? That's the question. Asking for a friend.
Actually, I did wear mine, and it was awesome.
Okay,
I got pictures. I'll send you later.
All right. A couple other folks we need to thank. They were a great interview, great hang. Not 1, but 2.
Well, those are the Air Force
dose.
Those are the Air Force F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good. And by the way, "Be Just a Wingman" is one of the best songs they have on all their 4 albums.
Absolutely, fantastic stuff. All right, Fig. I think that's all we can say. That's all the smart shit we got to say, man. So until next week, stay safe and check 6.
There I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
It's what?
He said it's over.
I'll try it again without the sarcasm.
He said it's over, damn it. He said it was over.
Yeah. All right. We are out. All right. Fantastical.